If you walk into that ocean, Vivian, I swear to God, I'll drag you back out and make you live long enough to watch me take everything. Vivian stared at the voicemail from Grant, her ex-husband's voice crawling under her skin like poison. Her finger hovered over delete. Instead, she threw her phone at the waves. It disappeared into the foam. Good, let it drown, let everything drown. Except the divorce papers in her hand proved he wasn't lying. 6 signatures, 6 board members, 6 traders who'd voted to remove her from her own company. She had 11 days before Grant Maddox won. Again. A stranger's voice cut through the roar. Ma'am, that page, it's blowing. She didn't care. Let the ocean take everything Grant hadn't already destroyed. Then she saw which page was flying toward the surf. The only proof of his fraud. Vivian ran. Before we go further, do me a favor. Subscribe to this channel right now. Stay with me until the final word of this story. And comment below with your city. I want to see how far Vivian's fight has traveled. Now, let's watch her world burn and rise. The stranger was faster. Vivian's designer heels sank into the sand with every step slowing her down, making her clumsy. The man in the flannel shirt, whoever he was, moved like he'd been running on beaches his whole life. His boots barely touched the ground. The page tumbled end over end, catching updrafts, dancing just out of reach. The wave was coming. No, no, no! Vivian's scream tore out of her throat. The man dove. His body hit the sand hard, arm extended, fingers splayed. The wave crashed over him, white foam exploding around his shoulders. For one terrible second, Vivian couldn't see anything. Then he pushed up onto his knees, coughing, soaked completely, through holding the document above his head like a battle flag. Got it. Water streamed from his hair, his clothes, but he was grinning, actually grinning. Man, that was close. Vivian's knees buckled. She didn't fall, but it was close. The stranger jogged toward her, and Vivian saw him clearly for the first time, 30-something, stubbled jaw eyes the color of storm clouds. Working man hands, honest face, nothing like Grant's polished, predatory beauty. Here. He offered the page, careful not to let water drip on it. I think you need this more than the ocean does. Vivian took it with shaking fingers. The ink had run slightly at one corner, but the crucial numbers, the offshore account, the transaction date, Grant's shell company, were still legible. Thank you, she whispered. Then louder, because he deserved more than whispers. Thank you. You have no idea what you just saved. Must be pretty important. He wasn't asking, wasn't prying, just observing. It's proof that my ex-husband is a fraud. The words fell out before Vivian could stop them. Sorry, I shouldn't have. It's okay. He glanced at the remaining papers scattered near her feet, weighed down with her shoes, her purse a piece of driftwood. That wind's vicious through this cove. Funnels through and grabs everything. You need rocks, flat ones, they won't roll. Vivian watched stunned as this stranger began collecting stones from the tide line. He moved with the confidence of someone who understood how things worked. If physics wind patterns, the weight required to hold paper down against nature's theft. Grant had never understood how things worked. He only understood how to take credit for other people's understanding. I'm Caleb, the man said, kneeling beside her documents and placing stones with geometric precision. Caleb Walker, I'm the carpenter working on your boardwalk. Or what Hurricane Helena left of it. Vivian, she didn't offer her last name. Couldn't risk him Googling her and finding the tabloid headlines, Hartwell CEO's marriage implodes, sources say she's losing it. Nice to meet you, Vivian. He said her name like it was just a name, not a brand, not a weapon. There, that should hold unless we get winds over 40 knots. He stood, brushed sand from his knees and started to leave. Wait, Vivian's voice cracked. Why did you help me? Caleb turned back, something shifting in his expression. Because you look like I felt 2 years ago when my wife died. Like you were deciding whether drowning would hurt less than breathing. The truth landed like a slap. I wasn't going to, Vivian started. I know, but I also know what that edge looks like. So when I see someone standing on it, I pay attention. He pulled a card from his wallet, simple printed, at a local shop, Caleb Walker Custom Carpentry. I'll be here most days this week. If you need anything more, rock, someone to chase runaway papers, whatever, just holler. He walked away before Vivian could respond. She stood on the sand holding a business card and a water-stained fraud confession, feeling something crack open inside her chest. Not hope, Not yet, but the first breath after drowning. Okay. 3 hours later, Vivian's kitchen had become a war room. Legal documents covered every surface. Her laptop displayed spreadsheets, color-coded by levels of betrayal red. For board members, Grant had definitely bought yellow. For the ones who might still be saved, black. For the deals so dirty they'd never see daylight in court. Her phone, the replacement she'd driven 30 miles to buy, buzzed continuously. Richard, her lawyer. We need to talk. Call me. Her assistant board member, Phillips, is asking questions about your mental state. Want me to respond? Grant's lawyer, Ms. Hartwell, my client remains open to an amicable settlement. Please consider his generous offer before Friday's vote. Vivian deleted them all. Then she opened her whiskey, the good stuff, the bottles she'd been saving for the day Hartwell Meridian went public, and poured 3 fingers into a coffee mug because all her glasses were dirty. She was raising the mug to her lips when someone knocked. Vivian considered ignoring it, considered pretending she wasn't home, considered many things that would let her keep drowning in expensive alcohol and cheaper rage. She opened the door anyway. Caleb Walker stood on her porch holding a thermos and looking uncomfortable. I know it's late, he said, and I know this is weird, but you look really bad this morning, and I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I made extra coffee and... He stopped. This is weird. I'm making it weird. Sorry. Vivian surprised herself by laughing. You brought me coffee because I look suicidal. When you put it that way, it sounds really weird. It is really weird. She stepped back. Come in. Caleb hesitated. You sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. He followed her inside, moving carefully like he understood this was her space, and he was a guest who could be ejected at any moment. His eyes went immediately to the documents covering her table. Jesus, he said softly, that's a lot of paperwork. That's 11 days of trying to prove my ex-husband committed corporate fraud. Vivian poured coffee from his thermos. It was perfect, strong and black, and honest into 2 mugs. Cheers. They drank in silence. Then Caleb said, Can I ask you something? You brought the coffee. Ask anything. This morning, the page that blew away. You said it proved your ex-husband is a fraud. What kind of fraud? Vivian studied him. Most people asking that question wanted gossip, ammunition, entertainment. Caleb just looked curious and sad, like he understood what fraud cost beyond money. The taking credit for other people's work kind, Vivian said. The manipulating board votes kind. The destroying everything I built because he can't stand that I built it kind. Sounds like a real piece of work. That's the nice version. Vivian took another drink. His name's Grant Maddox, and in 11 days he's going to take my company unless I can prove he bribed 6 board members to vote against me. The mug in Caleb's hand stopped halfway to his mouth. His face went white, then gray, then something darker. Vivian didn't have a name for her. Grant Maddox, he repeated, voice flat as a blade. You were married to Grant Maddox. It wasn't a question. 7 years, Vivian said, watching Caleb's reaction carefully. You know him. Caleb set his mug down very precisely, like he was afraid of what his hands might do if they weren't busy being careful. Yeah, he said, I know him. The kitchen was very quiet. How? Vivian asked. Caleb looked at her for a long moment. Then he started talking. 5 years ago, I was a structural engineer, top of my field. I'd developed this design, a revolutionary approach to earthquake-resistant buildings based on biomimicry. Trees spider webs the way nature distributes force. It was going to change everything. His voice was steady, but Vivian heard the tremor underneath. Grant was consulting on the project. He was charming, brilliant, helpful. We became friends. Caleb's laugh was sharp enough to draw blood. Then my wife got sick. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 3 months from diagnosis to hospice. I needed money for experimental treatments, for making her comfortable for Emily's future if the worst happened. Emily, Vivian said softly. My daughter, she was 2. Caleb's hands clenched. Grant offered to buy my design, said it would help me out, let me focus on my wife. I was desperate, exhausted, terrified. I signed papers without reading them because Grant was my friend and friends help each other. Vivian's stomach dropped. The NDA. Caleb's head snapped up. You know about those? I've seen him use them. They're his favorite weapon. He buried me in legal clauses, took my design, put his name on it, built his entire reputation on my work. When Sarah died anyway and I tried to speak up, when I tried to tell the truth, his lawyers threatened to sue me for everything. Medical debt, funeral, costs, my house, Emily's college fund. Everything. The words fell like stones. So I disappeared, Caleb continued. Moved here. Became a carpenter because at least no one can steal a deck I've already built. Started over with nothing but my daughter and the certainty that Grant Maddox destroys everything he touches. Vivian felt rage bloom in her chest, hot and clean and righteous. He's trying to take my company, she said. Hartwell Meridian. I built it from nothing. Grew it into a $50 million enterprise while he was consulting and stealing other people's genius. Now he's convinced half my board I'm unstable, that the divorce broke me, that he's the visionary who can save what I've created. Classic Grant. He's got the votes, he's got the narrative, but I found something. Vivian pulled out the water-stained page. One transaction, money from one of Grant's shell companies to a board member's offshore account hidden inside a structural consulting contract. It's fraud, enough to stop him, but I don't understand the technical language well enough to prove it. Caleb took the page. His eyes scanned the text, and Vivian watched his expression change shock to recognition to fury. This isn't just fraud, he said quietly. This is my design. The consulting contract, Grant used my work as a vehicle to hide the bribery. He's literally using what he stole from me to steal from you. The kitchen felt like it was shrinking. Can you prove it? Vivian asked. That it's your work? Maybe. I kept encrypted files, hidden in my workshop. I told myself it was because I couldn't let go, but really, I think I knew someday I'd need to fight back. Then help me. Vivian's voice was steady. Help me stop him. Caleb closed his eyes. I have a daughter. I know. She's 7 years old. She's the only thing keeping me alive some days. If Grant finds out I'm helping you if he comes after me again, he'll destroy you, Vivian finished. I know. And I'm asking anyway because I'm desperate and selfish and 11 days away from losing everything. That's honest. I'm too tired to lie. Caleb opened his eyes. Emily asked me something last week. What? Why bad people get to win? There was a bully at school. Teachers didn't stop it. She wanted to know why. His voice cracked. I told her bad people win when good people are too scared to fight back. Vivian waited. I'm scared, Caleb admitted. Grant Maddox terrifies me. But you know what scares me more? Emily growing up, watching her father hide from the truth because it's safer than standing in it. He looked at Vivian and she saw the decision forming. Show me everything, he said. They worked until 2 in the morning. Caleb explained the engineering principles while Vivian cross-referenced dates and payments. Around midnight, Vivian made sandwiches neither of them ate. At 1 a.m., Caleb called his neighbor, elderly Mrs. Chen, who was apparently watching Emily, to say he'd be late. She okay? Vivian asked when he hung up. Mrs. Chen says Emily's asleep with Mr. Carrots. That's her stuffed rabbit. She's had it since Sarah died. Caleb rubbed his eyes. Some nights I think that rabbit's the only reason she survived losing her mother. What was Sarah like? The question surprised them both. Caleb smiled, and for the first time since he'd arrived, it reached his eyes. Smart, funny, called me on my bullshit. She was a pediatric oncologist, spent her whole career saving kids from the disease that killed her. He paused. She would have liked you. How do you know? Because you're fighting even though you're terrified. Sarah always said the bravest people aren't the ones without fear. They're the ones who are scared shitless and fight anyway. Vivian felt something warm bloom in her chest. At 2 a.m., they found the first real connection. Look at this, Caleb said, pulling up a file on his laptop. This is my original design. See this load calculation? It's based on a Fibonacci sequence I derived from tree root systems. Okay. Now look at Grant's revolutionary design that he presented at the International Engineering Conference 3 years ago. Vivian looked. The numbers matched exactly. Even a typo reinforced steel instead of steel was identical. He didn't even fix your spelling mistake, she said. Lazy and arrogant. That's Grant. Caleb's jaw tightened. But this isn't enough. Any decent lawyer would argue parallel development or claim I copied him. What would be enough? Something only the original creator would know. Something that couldn't be coincidence. Caleb stared at the screen. There has to be something. Vivian's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her blood turned cold. She answered. Vivian Hartwell? Grant's voice slid through the speaker like oil. It's late. You should be sleeping. Big week ahead. Caleb's head jerked up. How did you get this number? Vivian demanded. Please. You bought that phone 3 hours ago at the Verizon on Route 9. Did you really think I wouldn't know? Grant laughed. I also know you've made a new friend, Caleb Walker. Such a tragic case. Lost his wife, lost his career, lost his way. I hope you're not relying on him for anything important. Vivian's hand shook. Stay away from him. Or what? You'll report me to whom? The board I control, the lawyers I pay, the wife who signed an NDA that could bankrupt her if she speaks publicly about our marriage. His voice turned sharp. You have nothing, Vivian. 11 days from now, Hartwell Meridian becomes mine, just like everything else. You're wrong, Vivian said, surprised by her own steadiness. Am I? Tell me what's your brilliant plan? Find some old paperwork. Expose my fraud. Grant's laugh was cruel. Even if you had proof, which you don't, you'd never get it to the board in time. They're voting Friday. Remote session. I've made sure you won't even be in the room. We'll see. Yes, we will. Give my regards to Caleb. Tell him I said hello. Tell him Emily's school has excellent security, but accidents happen. Vivian hung up before Grant could finish. Her hands were shaking so hard she nearly dropped the phone. Caleb was white-faced. He threatened Emily. He threatened the idea of threatening Emily. There's a difference. But Vivian's voice wasn't steady anymore. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have involved you. This is my fight. Stop. Caleb stood. He called my daughter's name, used her as a weapon. That makes it my fight now. Caleb, I spent 5 years hiding, running, teaching Emily that survival means keeping quiet. But you know what? Grant's right about one thing. I did lose my way. He grabbed his laptop. Time to find it again. What are you going to do? What I should have done 5 years ago. Caleb's eyes were hard. I'm going to war. The next morning, Caleb arrived at 8 with Emily. Vivian opened the door to find the little girl clutching a worn stuffed rabbit and half hiding behind her father's leg. She had Caleb's dark hair and her mother's eyes. Vivian had seen photos on Caleb's laptop and the look of a child who'd learned early that the world takes things away. A childcare fell through, Caleb explained. Mrs. Chen has a doctor's appointment. If this doesn't work, it works, Vivian said firmly. Then to Emily, Hi, I'm Vivian. Who's your friend? The little girl whispered something to the rabbit. She says his name is Mr. Carrots, but he's not actually a carrot. He just likes carrots, Caleb translated. That's an important distinction, Vivian said seriously. Emily's mouth twitched, almost a smile. They set up camp at the dining room. Caleb worked through encrypted files while Vivian organized evidence. Emily sat on the floor with crayons and paper creating elaborate drawings of underwater castles. Around 10, Emily tugged on Vivian's sleeve. I'm hungry, she said quietly. Vivian looked at the clock, startled. Of course you are. I'm sorry, sweetheart. What do you like? Grilled cheese, cut diagonal. Diagonal is the only way, Vivian agreed. She made sandwiches, cut them properly, and poured juice into her fanciest crystal glasses because Emily's eyes went wide with delight. They ate on the back porch. Emily chattered about school, her teacher, the hermit crab she'd found. Caleb listened with his whole attention, responding to each observation like it mattered, because to him, it did. Vivian felt something shift in her chest. This was what Grant had stolen, not just Caleb's career, but years of this, years of ease, years of his daughter growing up without fear. We're going to stop him, Vivian said suddenly. Caleb looked up. What? Grant, we're stopping him, not just from taking my company, from getting away with what he did to you. Vivian, Emily should grow up seeing bad people lose sometimes, Vivian continued. She should know her father's a hero, not a victim. Something fierce moved through Caleb's expression. Okay, he said quietly. Then let's make sure she does. Utalkon. That afternoon, while Emily napped on the couch with Mr. Carrots, Caleb made a discovery. Vivian, come look at this. She leaned over his shoulder. The laptop screen showed lines of code, structural algorithms, load calculations that meant nothing to her. See this number? Caleb pointed to a seemingly random value embedded deep in the design. March 14th, 2018. It looks like a standard structural coefficient, but it's not. It's my wife's birthday, March 14th, 2018, the last one she saw. His voice cracked. I embedded it in the algorithm as, I don't know, a memorial, a signature, a way to keep her alive in the work. Vivian's throat tightened. Would Grant have known? No, he wouldn't have even noticed it. To anyone else, it's just another number in thousands of calculations. Caleb's hands were shaking. But it affects the entire structural integrity. Change it even slightly, and the building won't function the same way. Only the original creator would know why that specific number matters. Can you prove it? I can prove it's there. I can prove it matches Sarah's birthday. I can prove that Grant's design includes this exact number in this exact place. Caleb looked at her. What I can't prove is that Grant didn't put it there by coincidence. What are the odds? Astronomical, but odds aren't proof in court. Vivian thought fast. What if we showed that changing the number breaks the design, that it only works with Sarah's birthday? We'd need to run simulations, build physical models, test load distribution. Caleb paused. That takes weeks. We have days. Then we work faster. Vivian, I have resources, equipment, whatever you need. Her mind was already racing. We run the simulations, document everything, create a presentation so clear even my technophobic board members can understand it. Caleb stared at her. You'd do that? Spend that money on something that might not even work. I'd spend twice that to watch Grant's face when he realizes his genius is actually your love letter to your wife. For the first time since they'd met, Caleb smiled, really smiled, not the careful, polite version, but something genuine and a little wild. Okay, he said, let's burn his house down. Yeah. Days blurred into nights. Vivian hired an engineering simulation firm and paid triple for rush service. Caleb worked 18-hour days running calculations, building models, explaining in excruciating detail why one seemingly meaningless number was the keystone that held everything together. Emily became a fixture in Vivian's house. She did homework at the dining table, fell asleep on the couch, asked questions about why the ocean was loud and whether mermaids paid taxes. Vivian found herself making school lunches, braiding hair, learning the rules of Mr. Carrots, who had opinions about everything. On Wednesday, Richard flew in from the city. You look terrible, he said by way of greeting. Thank you, Richard. You're glowing as always. Her lawyer set his briefcase down and surveyed the chaos laptops, structural models, coffee cups, Emily's drawings taped to the walls. Is this your strategy? Richard asked. Engineering proof? It's the truth. The truth is lovely, Vivian, but the board votes in 2 days. Even if this works, even if you prove Grant stole someone's design, it doesn't prove he bribed board members. The bribery is hidden in the design, Vivian explained. He used Caleb's stolen work as the vehicle for the offshore payments. We prove the design is stolen. We prove the whole transaction is fraudulent. Richard looked skeptical. That's a hell of a logical leap for conservative board members to make. Then we make it compelling. Who's we? Caleb walked in from the kitchen carrying fresh coffee. I am. Richard's eyebrows rose. You're Caleb Walker. Yes. The original designer. Yes. Richard looked at Vivian. You found the smoking gun, and he's human. He's also standing right here, Caleb said mildly. Can you testify? If it helps Vivian, yes. Even though Grant will destroy you with that ND. Caleb's jaw tightened. He already destroyed me. Can't kill a corpse twice. Richard studied him for a long moment, then nodded. All right, here's what we need. Thursday night, 16 hours before the vote, they finished the presentation. 40 slides, 300 pages of supporting documentation, video simulations showing how the design worked with Sarah's birthday and failed without it, testimony from Caleb explaining the biomimicry principles, and at the end, a single slide with just 3 pieces of information. Design completion date, March 15th, 2018. Sarah Walker's death, March 14th, 2018. The number embedded in Grant Maddox's revolutionary design, March 14th, 2018. It's good, Richard said. It might even work. Might, Vivian demanded. Grant's lawyers are excellent. They'll argue coincidence, parallel development, that Caleb's lying for revenge or money. Richard shrugged. But it's the best shot we have. Emily wandered in, rubbing her eyes. Daddy, are we going home soon? Caleb scooped her up. Yeah, baby, soon. Did you beat the dragon? We're going to try. Emily looked at Vivian. Are you a dragon fighter too? I'm learning, Vivian said softly. Good, you need practice. Emily yawned. Mr. Carrot says you're doing okay for a beginner. Vivian felt tears prick her eyes. Tell Mr. Carrots, thank you. After Caleb took Emily home, Vivian and Richard worked through the night preparing for every possible attack Grant's lawyers might launch. At 4 a.m., Richard finally closed his laptop. Get some sleep, he ordered. You need to be sharp tomorrow. I can't sleep. Try anyway. Vivian walked him to the door. Richard, thank you for believing me. I don't believe you, he said. I believe the evidence, but for what it's worth, I hope you destroy that bastard. After he left, Vivian stood in her living room, surrounded by the evidence of battle. Her phone buzzed. Grant, see you tomorrow, darling. I'll try to make the takeover painless. Vivian didn't respond. She didn't need to. Tomorrow she'd let her evidence speak. Friday morning dawned gray and cold. The board meeting was set for 10 a.m. remote session. Vivian would join via video from her lawyer's conference room in the city. Grant would be there in person, presenting his case for why he should replace her as CEO. Vivian dressed carefully, navy suit, her mother's pearl earrings, the watch she'd bought herself the day Hartwell Meridian turned its first profit. Armor. Richard picked her up at 8. They drove in silence. At 9:45, they entered the virtual waiting room. Vivian could see board members joining one by one, Phillips, Chen, Rodriguez, Morrison, Steele, Davidson. Her allies and her traitors, impossible to tell which was which anymore. At 9:58, Grant joined. He looked perfect. Tailored suit, expensive haircut, the smile that had once made Vivian's heart race and now made her stomach turn. He saw her on camera and winked. At exactly 10 o'clock, the board chairman, Douglas Morrison, 60 years old and old-school traditional, called the meeting to order. This emergency session has been called to address concerns about Hartwell Meridian's leadership and future direction. Grant Maddox has petitioned for a vote of no confidence in current CEO Vivian Hartwell with the intent to assume leadership himself. Mr. Maddox, you have the floor. Grant stood. Vivian watched him on screen as he commanded the room, presenting numbers and projections and carefully constructed lies about her erratic behavior, her emotional decision-making, her inability to handle the pressures of leadership post-divorce. He was good. He'd always been good at this. When he finished, Morrison turned to the camera. Ms. Hartwell, you have the right to respond. Vivian stood. Behind her, the conference room door opened. Caleb Walker walked in. Grant's face went white. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Vivian said calmly. I'd like to introduce Caleb Walker, structural engineer, and the actual creator of the design Grant Maddox has built his reputation on. Objection, Grant's lawyer jumped in. This is highly irregular. Overruled, Morrison said. I want to hear this. Vivian began the presentation. She showed the original designs, the timestamps, the NDA, the stolen credit, and then the moment she'd been building toward the number embedded in the algorithm. This is Sarah Walker's birthday, Vivian explained. Caleb's late wife, the woman who died one day before he completed this design. He embedded her birthday as both memorial and signature. It affects every calculation. Change it in the entire structure, fails. She played the simulation, the building standing strong with March 14th, 2018 collapsing without it. Grant Maddox didn't just steal this design, Vivian continued. He used it as a vehicle to hide fraudulent payments to board members. The offshore transaction found in the consulting contract isn't just bribery, it's bribery concealed inside stolen intellectual property. The boardroom was silent. Morrison looked at Grant. Mr. Maddox, do you have a response? Grant stood slowly. Vivian watched him calculate, recalibrate, search for the lie that would save him. This is a desperate woman making desperate accusation, he said smoothly. Mr. Walker is clearly a disgruntled former colleague seeking revenge. I'm a father, Caleb interrupted quietly, seeking truth. He walked to the camera, and Vivian saw what the board members saw, a man with calloused hands and honest eyes wearing his best shirt, holding a photo of a woman and a little girl. This is my wife, Sarah, and my daughter, Emily, Caleb said. Sarah died 5 years ago. Emily was 2. She barely remembers her mother. But every time I look at that design, the one Grant claims he created, I see Sarah's birthday, her last birthday, the gift I gave her when I knew she was dying." His voice cracked. "Grant Maddox didn't create something revolutionary. He stole my goodbye to my wife and wore it like a crown." The silence was absolute. Morrison cleared his throat. "Mr. Maddox, the evidence seems fairly compelling." "It's coincidence," Grant snapped. "One number doesn't prove—" "It's not one number," Vivian cut in. "It's 300 pages of documentation, timestamps, files, witness testimony, and most damning of all, it's your own arrogance. You didn't even bother changing Caleb's typo when you copied his work." She put up the slide showing reinforced steel in both designs. Several board members gasped. Grant's lawyer was sweating. "My client maintains—" "Your client is a fraud," Morrison said flatly. "And frankly, I've heard enough." He turned to the board. "All in favor of removing Grant Maddox from any consideration for CEO position and opening an investigation into his conduct." 6 hands rose. Unanimous. "All in favor of Ms. Hartwell retaining her position as CEO with our full confidence." 6 hands rose again. Grant was screaming something, but Vivian couldn't hear it over the roaring in her ears. She'd won. She'd actually won. Morrison was talking about next steps, investigations, legal proceedings. Richard was gripping her shoulder, saying something about brilliant work. Caleb was standing beside her, silent tears running down his face. Vivian looked at Grant's face on the screen, red twisted, the mask finally shattered, and felt nothing. Not triumph, not vindication, just tired. So incredibly tired. The meeting ended. Board members logged off. Grant's screen went dark. Vivian sat down hard. "We did it," Richard said. "Yeah," Vivian whispered. "We did." Caleb knelt beside her chair. "You okay?" "I don't know." She looked at him. "Are you—" "I just said my wife's name in a room full of powerful people, and they actually listened." Caleb wiped his eyes. "So yeah, I think I'm okay." Richard was already on his phone fielding calls from reporters, regulators, other board members wanting to distance themselves from Grant. Vivian and Caleb sat in the quiet conference room and breathed. "What happens now?" Caleb asked. "Now we go home," Vivian said, "and we figure out how to live in a world where the dragon's dead." The drive back to the coast took 3 hours, but Vivian barely remembered any of it. Richard had offered to come with them, but she'd sent him back to the city to handle the press, the regulators, the inevitable feeding frenzy that came with exposing a man like Grant Maddox. Caleb drove. His truck smelled like sawdust and coffee, and the radio played country music so quietly Vivian could barely hear it over the engine. Neither of them spoke. What was there to say? They'd won, but winning felt less like fireworks and more like waking up after surgery, relieved the pain was over, but raw from the cutting. Vivian's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages from board members suddenly eager to prove their loyalty. Reporters requesting interviews. Her assistant sending congratulations mixed with questions about next week's schedule. She turned the phone off and watched the highway disappear behind them. "Emily's going to want to know everything," Caleb said finally. "What are you going to tell her?" "The truth, that sometimes the dragon loses." He glanced at Vivian. "She's going to want to celebrate, pizza and ice cream and staying up past bedtime. You should come." "I don't want to intrude on your Vivian." Caleb's voice was gentle but firm. "You're not an intrusion. You're the reason my daughter gets to see her father stand up instead of hide. Come to dinner. Let her thank you." Vivian felt her throat tighten. "Okay." They picked Emily up from Mrs. Chen's house. The little girl came running out the door, Mr. Carrots clutched in one hand, and launched herself at her father's legs. "Did you win?" she demanded. Caleb scooped her up. "We won." "Mr. Carrots knew you would. He has excellent instincts." Mrs. Chen appeared in the doorway, ancient and sharp-eyed. The girl wouldn't eat lunch, said her stomach was too nervous for her daddy. "I'm okay now," Emily announced. "My stomach unnervous." Vivian found herself smiling for the first time all day. They went to a pizza place that looked like it hadn't been updated since 1987. Checkered tablecloths, a jukebox in the corner, a teenager working the register who looked profoundly bored. Emily ordered pepperoni with extra cheese and proceeded to pick off all the pepperoni and eat it separately, which Caleb informed Vivian was advanced pizza technique. "So the bad man can't hurt us anymore?" Emily asked around a mouthful of cheese. No, baby. He can't. Good. I didn't like him. Mr. Carrot said he had mean eyes. Caleb and Vivian exchanged glances over Emily's head. Mr. Carrots is very wise, Vivian said seriously. After pizza came ice cream, 3 scoops each, because Emily insisted winners needed proper celebration, and then Caleb drove them back to Vivian's house because Emily wanted to see the ocean before bed. They stood on the beach in the twilight, Emily running between them and shrieking every time a wave came close. The wind was calmer than it had been the morning Vivian's papers blew away. Or maybe Vivian was just calmer. Hard to tell. Thank you, Caleb said quietly, for what you're the one who saved my company. You gave me my life back. Let me say Sarah's name out loud. Let me stop hiding. He watched Emily chase seagulls. That's worth more than any company. Vivian wanted to say something profound, something worthy of the moment. Instead, she said, your daughter thinks my hair looks like a mermaid's. Caleb laughed. She told me that this morning. Very specific mermaid, too. The kind that saves sailors, not the kind that drowns them. I've never saved anyone. You saved yourself. That counts. Emily ran back, breathless and sandy. Vivian, do you have a boyfriend? Emily? Caleb looked mortified. What Mrs. Chen says, it's important to know people's status. Emily turned back to Vivian, waiting. No, Vivian said, trying not to smile. No boyfriend. Good, boyfriends are complicated. That's what Mrs. Chen says. Mrs. Chen is very wise. She's 83. That's a lot of wise. After Emily fell asleep in the truck, Mr. Carrots tucked under her chin, sand still in her hair, Caleb carried her inside while Vivian unlocked the door. They moved quietly through the house, Caleb settling Emily on the couch with a blanket, Vivian starting coffee they probably didn't need. I should go, Caleb said, but he didn't move toward the door. You should, Vivian agreed, but she didn't want him to. They stood in her kitchen, the same kitchen where he'd first told her about Grant, about Sarah, about the design that cost him everything. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was the opposite, the kind of quiet that happens when 2 people have fought a war together and survived. What happens now? Caleb asked. Vivian poured coffee. I go back to the city, run my company, try to rebuild what Grant destroyed. And us. The question hung in the air. I don't know, Vivian admitted. What do you want to happen? Caleb took the coffee mug from her hands and set it down. Honestly, I want to finish fixing your boardwalk, take Emily to school, build furniture in my workshop, live a quiet life where the biggest drama is whether Mr. Carrots approves of dinner. That sounds nice. It does, but it also sounds lonely without you in it. Vivian's breath caught. Caleb, I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I know you have a whole life in the city, a company to run. I'm just saying these past 2 weeks working with you, watching you fight, it reminded me what it feels like to not be alone. You have Emily. I do, and she's everything, but there's a difference between not being alone and having someone who sees you. He met Vivian's eyes. You see me, not the carpenter, not the victim, not the guy Grant destroyed, just me. Vivian felt tears prick her eyes. You see me too, not the CEO, not the divorcee, not the woman having a breakdown on a beach, just me. So what do we do about it? I have no idea. They both laughed and the tension broke slightly. Caleb checked his watch. I really should get Emily home. School tomorrow. Of course, he gathered his sleeping daughter and Vivian walked them to the door. Emily stirred as Caleb shifted her weight. Vivian, the little girl mumbled half asleep. Yeah, sweetheart. Will you come have breakfast with us tomorrow? Daddy makes really good pancakes. Caleb looked embarrassed. Emily, Vivian's probably busy. I'd love to, Vivian heard herself say. Emily smiled and went back to sleep. After they left, Vivian stood in her too-quiet house and realized she'd just agreed to breakfast with a man and his daughter like it was the most natural thing in the world. Maybe it was. She was almost asleep when her phone rang the landline, the number only 3 people had. Vivian answered, expecting Richard with an update. You stupid, stupid bitch. Grant's voice was pure venom. Vivian sat up fast, heart pounding. How did you get this number? I had this number when we were married. Did you really think I'd forget? He was breathing hard words, slurring slightly. Drunk or high or both. You destroyed me, my reputation, my career, everything. You destroyed yourself. I made you, Grant screamed. You were nothing when I met you. A nobody with a small business and big dreams. I taught you how to network, how to negotiate, how to be someone worth noticing. You taught me how to lie, how to manipulate, how to destroy people who trusted you. Vivian's voice was steady despite her shaking hands. I learned from the best. You're going to regret this. I already regret marrying you. Everything else is an improvement. Grant laughed sharp and ugly. You think you've won? You think exposing me ends this? I know things about you, Vivian. Things that would destroy your precious company faster than any takeover. Then why didn't you use them? Silence. Long enough that Vivian knew she'd hit a nerve. Because they don't exist, she continued. You're bluffing, like always. Try me. His voice went quiet, which was somehow worse than the screaming. You took everything from me. I'm going to return the favor. And I'm going to start with your new little friend. The line went dead. Vivian called Caleb immediately. Hello? He sounded worried. Vivian, it's midnight. Grant just called me. He threatened you. Both of you. The words tumbled out. I'm so sorry. I should have known he wouldn't just disappear. I should have... Vivian, slow down. What exactly did he say? She repeated the conversation, including the threat against Caleb. The line was quiet for a long moment. Okay, Caleb said finally. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow morning, you're going to call Richard and tell him everything. He'll handle the legal side, restraining orders, whatever we need. I'm going to call the school, make sure they know only I can pick up Emily. And we're going to keep living our lives because that's what Grant can't stand. Caleb, if anything happens to Emily, nothing's going to happen. Grant's a coward. He threatens because he has no other power left. Caleb's voice was firm. We beat him once. We'll beat him again if we have to. You sound very calm about this. I'm terrified, but I'm also done running. A pause. Are you still coming for breakfast? The question surprised a laugh out of Vivian. Yes, I'm still coming. Good. Emily's going to make you wear a paper crown. I tried to warn you. After they hung up, Vivian lay in the dark and wondered when her life had become equal parts corporate warfare and paper crowns. Morning came too fast. Vivian dressed carefully, jeans and a sweater, trying for casual, and probably missing by a mile, and drove to Caleb's cottage. It was smaller than she'd expected, weathered blue paint, and a porch with rocking chairs tucked into the trees like it had grown there naturally. Emily answered the door wearing pajamas and a tiara. You're late, she announced. Pancakes wait for no one. That's what Daddy says. I apologize to the pancakes. Emily considered this. They accept. Come in. The cottage was warm and cluttered in the best way. Emily's drawings on the fridge books, stacked on every surface, a half-finished rocking chair in the corner that Caleb was clearly building by hand. It smelled like maple syrup and coffee and home. Caleb emerged from the kitchen wearing an apron that said Grill Sergeant and looking embarrassed about it. Emily's gift, he explained. I'm contractually obligated to wear it. It's very dignified, Vivian said. It has a cartoon hot dog on the back. Breakfast was chaos in the best way. Emily insisted on setting the table fancy, which meant paper napkins folded into triangles and plastic cups arranged in a specific pattern only she understood. Caleb made pancakes shaped like animals, though they looked more like abstract art than anything found in nature. This one's a giraffe, Emily explained, pointing to something that looked like a blob with legs. I see it, Vivian lied. No, you don't, but that's okay. Daddy can't see it either. They ate until Vivian thought she might burst. Emily chattered about school, about the hermit crab who'd now been named Sebastian the Brave, about how Mr. Carrots had given Vivian passing marks for breakfast attendance. High praise from Mr. Carrots, Vivian said. He doesn't like just anyone. After breakfast, Caleb walked Emily to the school bus stop while Vivian did dishes. She was drying the last plate when he returned, looking troubled. What's wrong? She asked. Probably nothing. There was a car I didn't recognize parked down the street. Gray sedan. It left when I looked at it too long. Vivian felt ice in her stomach. Grant, we don't know that. Who else would it be? Caleb pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police, filing a report. We need this documented. While he talked to the dispatcher, Vivian texted Richard, Grant's escalating, need restraining order immediately. Richard's response was instant. Already filed this morning. Judge will rule by end of day. Sit tight. But sitting tight felt impossible when Grant was circling like a shark. The police came, took statements, promised to increase patrols. It felt simultaneously reassuring and terrifying, the acknowledgement that the threat was real enough to warrant police involvement. After they left, Caleb made more coffee, and they sat on his porch watching the ocean through the trees. I should go, Vivian said. Being around me is dangerous for you and Emily. Stop. Caleb. No, I'm serious. Stop trying to protect us by leaving. Grant wins if we're scared enough to split up. He loses if we're together. Caleb took her hand. I'm not letting him take this away too. Vivian looked at their joined hands, his scarred and calloused, hers soft from expensive lotion, and felt something settle in her chest. Okay, she said. We stay together. Together, Caleb agreed. Vivian's phone rang. Richard. The judge granted the restraining order, he said without preamble. Grant has to stay 500 feet away from you, Caleb and Emily. He's also being investigated by the SEC and the State Bar Association. His law license is suspended pending the investigation. That's good news. It gets better. 3 board members from his last company came forward with similar stories. He's been doing this for years, stealing credit, bribing votes, destroying anyone who challenged him. This isn't just about Hartwell anymore. This is criminal. Vivian closed her eyes. How long until trial? Months, maybe a year. These things take time. But Vivian, he's done. Even if he beats some of the charges, his reputation is destroyed. No one will work with him again. After hanging up, Vivian relayed everything to Caleb. So it's really over, he said. The legal part is just beginning. But yeah, Grant's finished. They sat in silence, letting it sink in. I thought I'd feel happier, Caleb admitted. Vindicated or something. Instead, I just feel tired. Me too. Is that normal? I have no idea. I've never destroyed my ex-husband's career before. Caleb laughed and Vivian joined him. And suddenly they were both laughing too hard, the kind of laughter that comes after surviving something terrible. When Emily came home from school, she found them on the porch, red-eyed from laughing, drinking cold coffee, and looking exhausted. Did something funny happen? She asked suspiciously. We beat the dragon, Caleb said. For real this time. Emily considered this. Does that mean we can go to the aquarium this weekend? You said we could go after the dragon was dead. Caleb looked at Vivian. Want to see some fish? I would love to see some fish. Emily whooped and ran inside to tell Mr. Carrots the good news. Fair warning, Caleb said. The aquarium is 2 hours away, and Emily will want to read every single informational plaque. Sounds perfect. And somehow impossibly it did. That night, Vivian drove back to her house and found herself reluctant to go inside. The beach house felt empty in a way it hadn't before, too quiet, too still, too much space for one person who'd gotten used to chaos and laughter and a 7-year-old's running commentary on everything. She was unlocking her door when she heard footsteps behind her. Vivian spun around, heart in her throat. A woman stood at the edge of her driveway. Mid-50s expensive coat, the kind of perfectly styled hair that cost more than most people's car payments. Vivian Hartwell, the woman said. It wasn't a question. Who are you? My name is Margaret Steele. I'm on your board. She stepped closer, hands visible, moving slowly like she understood Vivian was seconds from calling the police. I know it's late. I apologize. But I needed to speak with you privately. We have phones. This conversation isn't one I want recorded. Margaret stopped a respectful distance away. May I come in 5 minutes? That's all I need. Every instinct screamed danger, but curiosity won. Vivian let her inside. Margaret declined coffee, declined a seat, stood in Vivian's living room, looking uncomfortable. I voted against you, she said bluntly. Every proposal you brought to the board for the last year, I voted no. I want you to know why. Vivian crossed her arms. I'm listening. Grant told me you were unstable, showed me emails you'd supposedly sent rambling paranoid concerning. He said you were having a breakdown and needed to be removed for your own good. Margaret's jaw tightened. I believed him. I thought I was helping you. You thought wrong. I know. The emails were fake. Very good fakes, but fakes nonetheless. My IT team confirmed it this afternoon. Margaret met Vivian's eyes. Grant played me, played all of us, and I'm sorrier than I can express. Sorry doesn't fix what you did? No, it doesn't, but this might. Margaret pulled an envelope from her purse. This is my resignation from the board effective immediately. I'm also prepared to testify against Grant in any legal proceedings. And I'm personally recommending 3 new board members who actually understand what you've built and want to support it. Vivian took the envelope stunned. Why are you doing this? Because I'm 62 years old and I've spent 40 years in business. I've seen a lot of Grant Maddoxes, charming men who destroy everything they touch. And I'm tired of watching them win. Margaret's voice shook slightly. You fought back. Most people don't. Most people just disappear. You stood up and you won, and you deserve better than board members who were stupid enough to be manipulated. I don't know what to say. Say you'll accept my resignation and let me help clean up the mess I made. Vivian looked at the envelope at Margaret's determined face and made a decision. I'll accept your help, she said, but I won't accept your resignation. I need board members who understand what Grant is capable of, who won't fall for his tricks again. That's you now. Margaret blinked rapidly. You're serious? Completely. Stay on the board. Vote your conscience. Help me rebuild. Vivian handed the envelope back. And maybe warn the others that I'm not nearly as unstable as Grant suggested. I already did. Phillips is beside himself. Rodriguez keeps apologizing. We're all horrified. Good. Channel that horror into making sure this never happens to another CEO. After Margaret left, Vivian sat in her living room holding a cup of tea she didn't remember making and realized something had shifted. The board wasn't her enemy anymore. Grant's manipulation had been exposed. She had allies. She had won more than just a battle. She'd won her company back. The weekend aquarium trip was exactly as advertised. 2 hours of driving with Emily, providing detailed commentary on cloud shapes, 4 hours of reading every plaque in the building, and one very overpriced lunch featuring fish-shaped chicken nuggets that Emily insisted were thematically appropriate. Vivian watched Caleb explain tidal ecosystems to his daughter with the patience of someone who'd answered the same question 8 different ways and would happily answer it a 9th time. She watched Emily press her face against the glass, marveling at jellyfish. She watched them hold hands in the tunnel under the shark tank, both of them looking up in wonder. And she realized she didn't want this to end. Not the day, not the weekend, not whatever this was becoming. Vivian, Emily grabbed her hand. Come see the octopus. He's hiding, but Mr. Carrots found him. Vivian let herself be dragged to the octopus tank, where indeed a small octopus was tucked into a corner barely visible. How did you spot him? Vivian asked. Mr. Carrots has excellent eyesight, Emily said seriously. Also, the lady with the badge told us where to look. On the drive home, Emily fell asleep in her car seat. Mr. Carrots clutched tight. Caleb drove with one hand, the other resting on the console between them. Without thinking about it, Vivian laced her fingers through his. He glanced at her, surprised, then smiled and squeezed her hand. They didn't talk. Didn't need to. Just drove through the twilight, holding hands like teenagers while a 7-year-old snored softly in the back seat. When they reached Vivian's house, Caleb walked her to the door while Emily continued sleeping in the truck. Thank you for today, Vivian said. Thank you for wearing the paper crown without complaining. It was a very nice crown. It said Fish Queen in marker. Exactly, very nice. Caleb laughed, then grew serious. Vivian, I need to ask you something. Okay. What are we doing here, you and me? Vivian's heart raced. I don't know. What do you want to be doing? Honestly, I want to keep having breakfast with you. Keep watching you make Emily laugh. Keep holding your hand in my truck. He stepped closer. But you have a whole life in the city, a company to run. I can't ask you to give that up. You're not asking. I'm choosing. The words surprised Vivian, but they felt right. I can run Hartwell from anywhere. We have remote capabilities. I don't need to be in the city every day. You'd really do that. I spent 7 years building a life I thought I wanted. Turns out what I actually want is breakfast with a carpenter and his daughter who has opinions about proper fish nugget consumption. Caleb smiled slow and warm. Emily's going to be insufferable when she finds out she was right. Right about what? She told me last week that you should be her new friend because you needed us and we needed you. Said Mr. Carrots confirmed it. Well, we can't argue with Mr. Carrots. Never. His judgment is flawless. They stood on Vivian's porch, the ocean roaring behind them. Emily sleeping in the truck, and the future spreading out uncertain and terrifying and full of possibility. Caleb kissed her softly, carefully, like he was afraid she might break. Vivian kissed him back like she was finally whole. When they pulled apart, Caleb rested his forehead against hers. "I should get Emily home," he whispered. "You should. Come to dinner tomorrow." "I'll be there." After he left, Vivian went inside and called Richard. "I need to set up a remote office," she told him, "and I need you to find me a COO who can handle day-to-day operations in the city, someone we trust completely. You're moving to the coast permanently. I'm moving towards something that feels like life instead of survival. The location is just a bonus." Richard was quiet for a moment. "Good for you, Viv, really. You deserve this." "So do you. Take a vacation, Richard. You look exhausted." "I'll sleep when Grant's in prison." "Fair enough." That night, Vivian slept better than she had in months. No nightmares about Grant, no anxiety about the company, just deep, peaceful sleep that came from knowing she'd fought her battle and won. She woke to her phone ringing at 3 a.m. Unknown number again. Vivian almost didn't answer, but some instinct made her pick up. Heavy breathing on the other end. Then Grant's voice so quiet it was almost a whisper. "You think you've won. You think destroying my career and my reputation, my life makes you safe." A pause. "But you forgot something, Vivian. I know where you sleep. I know where Caleb works. I know what time Emily's school bus arrives." The line went dead. Vivian called the police. Then she called Caleb. "Get Emily," she said when he answered. "Right now. Wake her up and get her somewhere safe." "Vivian, what?" "Grant just called. He's threatening Emily specifically. Please, Caleb. Please get her somewhere he can't find her." She heard rustling, Caleb moving fast. "I'm getting her now," he said. "We're going to Mrs. Chen's. He doesn't know about her." "Call me when you're safe." "I will." "Vivian." "I know, me too. Just get Emily safe." Vivian spent the rest of the night on her couch, lights on phone in hand, waiting for either Caleb's call or the sound of breaking glass. Neither came. At 6 a.m. her phone rang. "Caleb." "We're okay," he said. "Emily's safe. Mrs. Chen has a shotgun and apparently knows how to use it. We're staying here until the police figure out where Grant is." "Thank God." "The restraining order, he violated it. The police are looking for him now." "Good." But Vivian knew Grant, knew how he operated. A restraining order was just paper. It wouldn't stop him if he really wanted revenge. She was proved right 8 hours later when Richard called with news that made her blood run cold. "Grant's gone," he said, "disappeared, missed his arraignment this morning. The court issued a warrant, but Vivian, they can't find him. His apartment's empty. His car's abandoned at the airport. He's in the wind." "He's coming here," Vivian said. "He's coming for us." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do. Richard, you don't understand. Grant doesn't lose. When he can't win, he destroys the board. And right now, we're the board. I'm sending private security. Do it fast." Vivian called Caleb immediately and told him everything. "Stay where you are," she ordered. "Keep Emily with Mrs. Chen. Don't go home. Don't go to your workshop. Don't go anywhere Grant might expect." "What about you?" "I'm fine. I have security coming." "Vivian, promise me you'll keep Emily safe. That's all I care about right now." A long pause, then, "I promise, but Vivian, I know, I love you too." The words slipped out before she could stop them. The line was quiet. Then Caleb said softly, "Say that again." "I love you. I don't know when it happened or how, but I do. And if Grant Maddox thinks he can use that against me, he's wrong. Love isn't a weakness. It's the reason I'm going to win." "I love you too," Caleb said. "And we're going to get through this. Together." "Together," Vivian agreed, but first she had to make sure Grant Maddox couldn't hurt anyone else ever again. The security team arrived within 2 hours, 3 men in dark suits who moved through Vivian's house like they were cataloging exits and vulnerabilities. The lead agent's name was Marcus, ex-military, with the kind of calm that came from seeing worse things than vengeful ex-husbands. "We'll do shifts," Marcus explained. 2 men outside, 1 inside at all times. You don't answer the door for anyone. You don't go anywhere alone. And if you see anything unusual, you tell us immediately." Vivian nodded, feeling like a prisoner in her own home. Her phone rang. "Caleb." "Emily's asking when she can go home," he said without preamble. "Mrs. Chen's been amazing, but she's 7 and scared and wants her own bed." Not yet. Please, not until we know where Grant is. Vivian, it's been 8 hours. Maybe he really did leave town. He didn't. I know him. He's waiting for the right moment. Caleb sighed. Emily wants to talk to you. There was rustling, then a small voice. Vivian, are you okay? The concern in Emily's voice broke something in Vivian's chest. I'm fine, sweetheart. I have people protecting me. Like bodyguards. Exactly like bodyguards. That's so cool. Can I meet them? Emily's enthusiasm was force covering fear. Mr. Carrots wants to know if they have guns. Tell Mr. Carrots they have everything they need to keep us safe. Vivian, Emily's voice dropped to a whisper. Is the bad man going to hurt my daddy? Vivian closed her eyes. No, baby. I promise your daddy's safe. You promise, because sometimes grown-ups promise things and then they don't happen. Like when mommy promised she'd get better. The pain in those words was unbearable. I promise. Vivian said, hoping desperately she could keep it. Your daddy's going to be fine. We all are. After they hung up, Vivian sat in her kitchen lights, blazing security outside and still feeling completely exposed. She called Richard. Any word, she asked? Nothing. It's like he vanished. Airport security has no record of him boarding a plane. His credit cards haven't been used. No hotel bookings. Richard paused. Either he's very good at hiding or he's got help. Who would help him? His mistress, maybe? The one from the affair? Or old colleagues who still believe his version of events? Richard's tone shifted. Vivian, there is something else. The SEC investigation turned up some interesting connections. Grant's been working with someone funneling money through shell companies hiding assets. They're trying to trace it now. You think he had a partner in the fraud? I think Grant Maddox has never done anything alone in his life. He always had someone cleaning up his messes. Vivian thought about that. Who? They don't know yet, but whoever it is, they're good at covering tracks. After midnight, Marcus knocked on Vivian's bedroom door. Ma'am, we have a situation. Vivian was out of bed instantly. What kind of situation, Tawan? Motion sensors triggered at the property line. Something or someone crossed into your yard 12 minutes ago. Her blood turned to ice. Where, Pooh? South side near the beach access. We've got 2 men moving to intercept. I need you to stay in this room with the door locked while we clear the property. What if it's just an animal? Then we'll know soon. But until we're sure, Nia, a crash from downstairs cut him off. Marcus's hand went to his weapon. Stay here, lock this door. Do not open it for anyone but me. He was gone before Vivian could argue. She locked the door with shaking hands and grabbed her phone. Called Caleb. Someone's in my house, she said when he answered. Security's handling it, but I'm coming. No, stay with Emily. Mrs. Chen has her shotgun and explicit instructions. I'm coming to you. Caleb, please. But he'd already hung up. Vivian pressed her ear to the door, trying to hear what was happening downstairs. Footsteps, shouting, something heavy hitting the floor. Then silence. The silence was worse than the noise. Her phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. All clear. False alarm. Deer-triggered sensors knocked over patio furniture. You can come out. Vivian unlocked the door with shaking hands and found Marcus in the hallway looking embarrassed. Sorry for the scare, he said. Big Buck must have weighed 200 pounds. Smashed right through your tomato plants. You're sure it was just a deer? Positive, we got it on camera. Want to see? He showed her the footage, a massive deer wandering across her yard, startled by the motion lights crashing into the patio table. Exactly as he'd said. Vivian felt stupid for being so paranoid. I'm sorry, I overreacted. You didn't. Better safe than sorry. That's what we're here for. 20 minutes later, Caleb arrived out of breath and wild-eyed. I thought when you said someone was in the house, he grabbed Vivian and held her tight. Don't do that to me. It was a deer. I don't care if it was Santa Claus. My heart can't take this. Vivian pulled back. You left Emily. Mrs. Chen has her, and her shotgun, and apparently her grandson, who's a police officer, showed up after I left. Emily's fine. Caleb cupped Vivian's face. But I needed to make sure you were. I'm okay. You're shaking. So are you. They stood in her hallway holding each other while Marcus politely pretended not to notice. Finally, Caleb said, I can't do this. Vivian's stomach dropped. Can't do what? Can't sit in Mrs. Chen's house waiting on for something bad to happen. Can't keep Emily locked up like a prisoner. Can't watch you surround yourself with security and pretend that's living. He took a breath. We need to find Grant. Actively find him. End this. The police are looking. The police are spread thin and Grant knows how to hide, but we know him. We know how he thinks. Caleb's eyes were hard. We can find him if we stop being afraid and start being smart. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we bait him out, give him what he wants. Vivian understood immediately. Me. Both of us. He wants to destroy what we have, so we give him a target he can't resist. That's insane. So is hiding forever. Caleb squeezed her hands. We beat him once. We can do it again. But this time we finish it. Vivian looked at Marcus, who'd been listening quietly. What do you think? Professionally, it's a terrible idea. Emotionally, I get it. Waiting for someone to strike first is torture. Marcus crossed his arms. If you're serious about this, we'd need a controlled environment. Somewhere we can monitor all the entry points. And backup, lots of backup. My workshop, Caleb said immediately. One entrance surrounded by tree security cameras I installed after Grant first threatened us. If we let it slip that we're meeting there alone, he'll come, Vivian finished, and we'll be ready. Marcus looked between them. You're really doing this. Yes, they said together. Then we do it right. I'm calling in reinforcements. And we're looping the police in because if this goes sideways, I want badges on scene. Marcus pulled out his phone. Give me 2 hours to set up. After he left to make calls, Caleb and Vivian sat on her couch, the weight of what they were planning settling over them. Are we crazy? Vivian asked. Probably, but I'm tired of being scared. Tired of looking over my shoulder. Tired of Grant controlling our lives even when he's not in them. What if something goes wrong? Then we trust that Marcus knows what he's doing, and we trust each other. Caleb turned to face her fully. I love you, Vivian. I should have said it back clearly earlier. Not in the middle of a crisis, not rushed. I love you. Whatever happens tomorrow, I need you to know that. I love you too, and I'm terrified that loving you is what's putting you in danger. Love isn't what's dangerous. Grant is, and we're about to take his power away. The next morning, they'd set the trap. Caleb made a very public phone call from the hardware store, mentioning loudly that he'd be working late at his workshop, sorting through old design files. Vivian posted on social media, first time in weeks, a casual photo of coffee with a geotag showing she was at the coast. Then Richard accidentally leaked to a reporter that Vivian and Caleb were meeting that evening to discuss a possible business partnership. The story went live within hours. If Grant was watching, and they knew he was, he'd see an opportunity too good to pass up. Emily stayed with Mrs. Chen, who'd been told only that Daddy and Vivian had an important meeting. The little girl had hugged them both fiercely before they left, making them promise to come back for pancakes in the morning. You have to promise, Emily insisted. Both of you, out loud. We promise, they'd said, and Vivian hoped desperately it wasn't a lie. By 6 p.m., Caleb's workshop was ready. Marcus had positioned 3 men outside hidden in the trees. 2 police officers were stationed down the road ready to move in. Cameras covered every angle. Vivian and Caleb were wired with microphones. Remember, Marcus said, you get him talking. Ideally get him to confess on tape. The second he makes a threat or shows a weapon, my team moves in. Do not try to be heroes. Understood, Caleb said. They waited. 7 p.m. came and went, then 8. By 9, Vivian was starting to think they'd been wrong. Then the motion sensors pinged. Someone was approaching through the trees. Marcus's voice came through Vivian's earpiece. We've got movement. Single individual male approaching from the north. Stay calm. We're in position. Vivian's heart hammered against her ribs. The workshop door opened. Grant Maddox stepped inside. He looked terrible, unshaven, wrinkled clothes, eyes bloodshot and wild. This wasn't the polished consultant Vivian had married. This was something broken and dangerous. Hello, darling, Grant said, his voice too calm. And Caleb, how nice. The happy couple together at last. Caleb stepped slightly in front of Vivian. You're violating a restraining order. Am I? Oh dear, whatever will I do? Grant's smile was sharp. You know what's funny? I built you both. Vivian, you were nobody before I taught you how to network, how to think big. Caleb, your design would still be rotting in a drawer if I hadn't seen its potential. And this is how you repay me, destroying everything I built. You built nothing, Vivian said. You stole everything. Semantics. In business, taking credit is the same as creating. Everyone knows that. Not everyone, not anymore. Vivian forced herself to stay calm. It's over, Grant. The SEC investigation, the criminal charges, the board members testifying against you. You're finished. I'm finished, Grant laughed. Vivian, I haven't even started. You think exposing me ends this? You think you've won? I know we have. Then you're more naive than I thought. Grant reached into his jacket. Instantly, Caleb moved fully in front of Vivian. Don't! Relax. I'm not armed. I'm not stupid. Grant pulled out a USB drive. I'm just prepared. What's on that? Vivian asked. Insurance. 5 years of files, conversations, emails, photos. Grant's smile widened, including several very interesting photos of Caleb's late wife in her hospital bed. Such a shame, pancreatic cancer. So painful. I visited her once, did Caleb tell you, right after he signed over his design. Sarah was so weak, barely conscious. But I made sure to tell her what her husband had done, how he'd sold his soul to pay for treatments that wouldn't work. Caleb went white. You're lying. Ask yourself why Sarah's last words to you were, I'm sorry. What did she have to be sorry for, Caleb? Unless she knew, unless she understood what you'd sacrificed and felt guilty for it. Stop talking. Caleb's voice shook. The truth hurts, doesn't it? But here's the beautiful part. Those photos, those hospital records, they're all on this drive, along with some creative editing that makes it look like you neglected your wife's care, chose your career over her treatment. Grant held up the USB drive like a prize. One click and the world sees Caleb Walker as the man who let his wife die. Vivian felt sick. That's not true. None of that's true. Truth is whatever people believe, and I'm very good at making people believe things. Why are you doing this? Vivian demanded. You already lost. What more do you want? Grant's mask finally cracked. I want you to hurt like I'm hurting. I want you to lose everything, like I've lost everything. You took my reputation, my career, my future. I'm going to take the things you love. We didn't take anything, Caleb said quietly. We just stopped letting you steal. Same thing, Grant was shouting now. Control completely gone. You think you're better than me. You're not Caleb. You're a washed-up carpenter with a dead wife and a daughter who'll grow up knowing her father's a failure. Vivian, you're a divorced CEO who had to hire bodyguards because you're too weak to fight your own battles. I'm fighting right now, Vivian said. By hiding behind security, by baiting me into a trap. Grant laughed bitterly. I know about the cameras, the police waiting outside. I'm not stupid, but I came anyway because I needed you to understand something. What? That even when you win, I still take something from you. That USB drive copies are everywhere. Cloud storage, trusted friends, dead man switches. If anything happens to me, those files go public. Caleb's reputation gets destroyed. Emily grows up with everyone thinking her father let her mother die. The room was silent except for Grant's heavy breathing. Then Caleb spoke, his voice steady. Do it. Grant blinked. What? Release the files, all of them. I don't care. Caleb stepped forward. You think threatening my reputation scares me. I lost my wife. I lost my career. I survived. You think lies about Sarah will destroy me? They won't, because I know the truth. Emily knows the truth, and Vivian knows the truth. That's all that matters. You're bluffing. I'm not. Go ahead, release your files. Tell your lies. I'll tell the truth louder. And the truth is that you're a coward who threatens dead women because you can't fight living ones. Grant's hand tightened on the USB drive. You'll regret this. I regret lots of things. Trusting you tops the list. But I don't regret standing here right now watching you realize that you've lost. I haven't lost. Yes, you have. Vivian stepped beside Caleb. You came here thinking you had power, thinking you could threaten us into submission. But the only power you ever had was what we gave you, and we're taking it back. Grant's face twisted with rage. He threw the USB drive at the floor, shattering it. Fine, you want to play it that way? I'll destroy you both the old-fashioned way. He lunged at Vivian. Caleb caught him mid-leap and they crashed into a workbench. Tools scattered, wood splintered. Marcus! Vivian screamed into her mic. Now! The door burst open. Marcus and his team flooded in, weapons drawn. Grant was still struggling with Caleb throwing wild punches, screaming incoherently. It took 3 men to pull him off. The police arrived seconds later, handcuffs out. Grant was still shouting as they dragged him away. This isn't over. You hear me? This isn't over. But it was. Vivian knew it, could feel it in the way Grant's voice faded as they pulled him outside, could see it in the way Caleb's shoulders finally relaxed. It was over. Marcus checked them both for injuries. Caleb had a split lip. Vivian had scraped her hands on the floor and called in a medic. That was the stupidest, bravest thing I've ever seen civilians do, Marcus said, but he was smiling slightly. You got him on tape threatening you both. Assault, violating a restraining order, plus destruction of evidence. The USB drive, Vivian said. Was any of it real? We'll have tech recover what we can, but honestly, probably not. Grant's a bluffer, always has been. One of the police officers approached. We'll need full statements from both of you, and we'll need to know everywhere Grant might have sent copies of those files. There are no copies, Caleb said with certainty. Grant always worked alone. It's his fatal flaw. He can't trust anyone enough to share real dirt with them. The officer looked skeptical but nodded. After everyone left police security medics, Vivian and Caleb stood alone in his destroyed workshop. Your beautiful tools, Vivian said, looking at the damage. They're just things. They can be replaced. Caleb pulled her close. You can't be. I was so scared. When he lunged at you, I know, me too. He kissed her forehead. But we did it. We really did it this time. You think he'll stay in jail? With assault, violating a restraining order, and everything else? Yeah, I think he will. Caleb tilted her chin up. And even if he doesn't, I'm not scared of him anymore. He's just a man. A small, broken man who needs other people to be smaller so he can feel big. Vivian started crying, then not sad tears, but the kind that came after surviving something terrible. Relief tears, victory tears, finally safe tears. Caleb held her while she sobbed, stroking her hair and murmuring that it was okay, they were okay, everything was going to be okay. When she finally stopped, he said, We should go get Emily. She's probably worried sick. It's past midnight. Mrs. Chen will be up. She doesn't sleep much. They drove to Mrs. Chen's house in Caleb's truck, holding hands the whole way. The elderly woman opened the door before they could knock. About time, she said. That girl's been pacing for hours. Emily appeared behind her, still in pajamas, clutching Mr. Carrots. Her eyes went huge when she saw Caleb's split lip. Daddy, you're bleeding. Just a scratch, baby. Come here. Emily launched herself at him, and Caleb caught her easily, holding her tight. The dragon, Emily whispered. Dead, Caleb confirmed. Really, truly dead this time. Forever. Forever. Emily pulled back and looked at Vivian. Did you help kill it? We killed it together, Vivian said. Good. That's how it's supposed to work. Mr. Carrot says teamwork is very important for dragon slaying. Mrs. Chen snorted. That rabbit's getting awfully wise for a stuffed animal. They thanked Mrs. Chen profusely. She waved them off with a grumble about people being ridiculous and went back to Caleb's cottage. Emily fell asleep in Caleb's arms on the drive home. Inside the cottage, Caleb carried her to bed while Vivian stood in the living room looking at Emily's drawings on the walls, the half-finished rocking chair, the comfortable chaos that meant family. Caleb emerged from Emily's room and found Vivian crying again. Hey, he said softly, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong, everything's right. That's the problem. I don't know how to exist in a world where things are actually right. Then I guess we'll figure it out together. He kissed her, gentle and deep and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, Vivian said, I should go home, let you sleep. Or you could stay. Guest room's clean. Emily would love to wake up and find you here. Caleb paused. I'd love to wake up and find you here. I don't have clothes. I have t-shirts. You have a toothbrush in the bathroom from last time you stayed for dinner. He took her hands. Stay, Vivian. Stop running back to that empty house. Stay here where people love you. Vivian's breath caught. People, Emily loves you. You know she does. Asks about you constantly. Caleb smiled. And I love you, in case that wasn't clear from the multiple declarations. It was pretty clear. So stay. Vivian looked around the cottage, small and cluttered and perfect, and made another choice that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. Okay, she said. I'll stay. That night, Vivian slept in Caleb's guest room, wearing one of his t-shirts, listening to the ocean through the open window and the sound of him breathing in the next room. She slept without nightmares for the first time in years. In the morning, Emily burst into her room at 6 a.m. Vivian, you stayed? Mr. Carrots is very pleased. The little girl jumped onto the bed. Daddy's making pancakes, the good kind with chocolate chips. But we can't start without you because that would be rude. Vivian laughed and let herself be dragged to the kitchen where Caleb stood at the stove, looking rumpled and domestic and absolutely perfect. Morning, he said, smiling. Hope you like chocolate chips. I love chocolate chips. Good. Emily added approximately 7,000 to the batter. That's the correct amount, Emily said seriously. Mr. Carrots confirmed the measurements. They ate pancakes at the tiny kitchen table, Emily chattering about school and hermit crabs and whether dragons had feelings. Caleb kept catching Vivian's eye and smiling like he couldn't quite believe she was there. Vivian couldn't quite believe it either. After breakfast, while Emily was brushing her teeth, Caleb pulled Vivian aside. Richard called while you were sleeping. Grant's arraignment is this afternoon. They're charging him with assault, stalking, violating a restraining order, and they're adding fraud charges based on the SAT investigation. Will he get bail? Richard thinks no. He's a flight risk. Already tried to disappear once. Caleb took her hand. It's really over, Vivian. He can't touch us anymore. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. Me too, but maybe this time there is no other shoe. Maybe we actually won. Vivian leaned against him. What happens now? Now we live. We figure out what that looks like when we're not constantly fighting. He kissed her hair. Emily wants to know if you'll come to her school play next week. She's playing a tree. A tree. A very important tree, she insists, one with speaking lines. Trees talk. In this play they do. Emily's tree is concerned about deforestation. Vivian laughed. I would love to see Emily's politically active tree. Good, because she already made you a ticket. It's pink and has glitter. That afternoon, Richard called with updates. Grant had been denied bail. The judge had called him a danger to society and a flight risk. He'd be held until trial, which would likely take months to prepare. He's done, Vivian, Richard said. I've seen a lot of cases. This one's airtight. Grant Maddox is going to prison. For how long? Best case scenario, for him 5 years. Worst case 20. Richard paused. You won, really completely won. You can stop waiting for him to strike back. He's got nothing left. After hanging up, Vivian walked down to the beach where Caleb was teaching Emily to identify tide pools. Look, Vivian, Emily called. A sea star. Did you know they can regrow their arms if they lose them? I didn't know that. It's true, they just regrow. Like magic, but science. Emily poked gently at the sea star. Do you think people can do that? Regrow arms. Regrow the parts that got broken. Vivian looked at Caleb, who was watching his daughter with such love it hurt. Yeah, Vivian said. I think people can do that too. It just takes longer than sea stars. How much longer? However long it takes, but it's worth it. Emily considered this. Mr. Carrots agrees. He says you're regrowing very well. Thank you, Mr. Carrots. That evening after Emily was in bed, Vivian and Caleb sat on his porch watching the stars come out. I need to go back to the city tomorrow, Vivian said. Just for a few days. Board meetings, contracts to sign people to reassure that I'm not actually having a breakdown. Okay, but I'll be back for Emily's play and for... She trailed off. For, Caleb prompted. For you, for this, for whatever this is becoming. Caleb took her hand. What do you want it to become? Something real, something lasting, something that doesn't collapse under pressure. Vivian turned to face him. I want to split my time between the city and here. Keep running Hartwell, but build a life that's bigger than just work. With you and Emily. If that's what you want too, that's exactly what I want. Caleb pulled her close. Emily asked me yesterday if you were going to be her new mom. Vivian's heart stopped. What did you tell her? I told her that's not how it works, that people don't replace other people, but that you could be someone important in her life, someone who loves her and who she loves back. He paused. She said that sounded even better than a new mom, because she already has a mom in heaven, but she could always use more people who love her. Vivian was crying again. She's so wise. She is, takes after Mr. Carrots. They sat in the dark, holding each other, listening to the ocean, and believing, finally believing, that the worst was behind them. Inside the cottage, Emily dreamed of sea stars and trees that spoke, and dragons that lost to people who were brave enough to fight together. And somewhere in a county jail, Grant Maddox raged against bars that wouldn't break, in a future that would never again include the power he'd spent his life stealing from others. The dragon was dead. The kingdom was healing, and everyone who'd survived the fire was learning slowly how to build in the ash. If you or someone you know is having a difficult time, free support is available. Find resources. 3 weeks later, Vivian stood in her corner office in the city staring at the skyline she'd once loved and now found suffocating. The view hadn't changed. The glass towers still gleamed. Traffic still crawled 40 floors below. But everything felt different. She felt different. Her assistant knocked. "So Hartwell, the board's ready for you." Vivian grabbed her presentation folder and walked into the conference room where 6 faces waited, some friendly, some still uncertain, all watching to see if their CEO had truly recovered from her very public battle. "Good morning," Vivian said, taking her seat at the head of the table. "Thank you all for coming. I know the last month has been chaotic. Today I want to address that directly and discuss Hartwell Meridian's future." She clicked to the first slide. As you know, Grant Maddox has been formally charged with fraud assault and corporate espionage. The SEC investigation has cleared Hartwell of any wrongdoing. Our stock price has actually increased 12% since the news broke. Phillips cleared his throat. The press coverage has been intense. Some outlets are calling you a hero. Others are questioning your judgment for marrying Maddox in the first place. "Let them question," Vivian said calmly. "I made a mistake 7 years ago. I trusted the wrong person. But I also built a $50 million company while married to a man actively trying to sabotage me. I'd say my judgment's pretty solid." A few board members smiled. "Moving forward," Vivian continued, "I'm implementing new protocols. No single board member will have unchecked influence over company decisions. All major votes will require documented justification. And we're hiring an independent auditor to review all consulting contracts for the past 5 years. Rodriguez leaned forward. "That's going to be expensive. Cheaper than another Grant Maddox." Vivian met his eyes. "I won't apologize for protecting what we built. If that makes me paranoid, so be it." The rest of the meeting went smoothly. By the end, even the skeptical board members seemed reassured. Hartwell Meridian was stable, growing, thriving despite, or maybe because of the chaos. After everyone left, Margaret Steele lingered. "That was masterful," she said. "You've got them eating out of your hand again." "I don't want them eating out of my hand. I want them doing their jobs." Vivian started packing her briefcase. "Speaking of which, thank you for the recommendation on the new COO. Miranda's been phenomenal. She's sharp, trustworthy, won't let anyone push her around." Margaret paused. "How much longer are you staying in the city?" "I'm leaving tonight. Emily's school play is tomorrow." Margaret raised an eyebrow. "Emily, Caleb's daughter. She's playing the tree, an environmentally conscious tree. You're rushing back to the coast to watch a 7-year-old play a tree. Yes, you're serious. Completely." Margaret smiled, and really smiled warm and genuine. "Good for you, Vivian. I mean that. I've watched too many brilliant women sacrifice everything for companies that would replace them in a heartbeat. Don't be one of them." After Margaret left, Vivian finished packing and checked her phone. 3 missed calls from Caleb. Her heart jumped. She called back immediately. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. Too right. I'm panicking." Caleb sounded breathless. "Emily wants to know if you're bringing flowers to the play. Apparently all the important trees get flowers. And I realize I don't know if you and I are at the flower giving stage, or if that's too much pressure, or..." "Caleb, breathe." He breathed audibly. "Okay, breathing. I'm bringing flowers, yellow roses, because Emily said yellow is a happy color. And I'm bringing flowers for you too, because watching your daughter be a tree is worth celebrating. You're bringing me flowers. Is that weird? No, it's... His voice cracked. Nobody's brought me flowers since Sarah's funeral. Vivian felt her chest tighten. Then it's time someone did. After they hung up, Vivian sat in her office and acknowledged a truth she'd been dancing around for weeks. She was in love with Caleb Walker. Not the desperate, all-consuming love she'd mistaken for passion with Grant, but something quieter, steadier, built on trust and respect, and the way he made her laugh when she was taking herself too seriously. She loved him. She loved his daughter. She loved the life they were building in the spaces between her corporate world and his quiet coast. And that terrified her more than Grant ever had. The drive back to the coast took longer than usual. Traffic was brutal, and Vivian kept second-guessing everything. Was she moving too fast? Not fast enough. Was she being fair to Emily, letting the little girl get attached when nothing was guaranteed? Was she being fair to Caleb, who'd already lost so much? Her phone rang. Unknown number. Vivian's blood ran cold. She answered on speaker. Hello? Ms. Hartwell, this is Detective Morris with the county police. I'm calling about Grant Maddox. Vivian's hands tightened on the wheel. What about him? He's being transferred to state prison tomorrow. His lawyer requested I inform you as a courtesy given the restraining order. He'll be farther away 3 hours north, and security will be significantly tighter. That's good news. It is. But there's something else. Detective Morris paused. During processing, Maddox tried to make a phone call. We monitor all outgoing communications. He was trying to reach someone named Lydia Chen. Vivian's brain stuttered. Chen as in, we don't know yet. Could be coincidence, but given that you have a board member named Chen. Rodriguez. Chen is my board member. Rodriguez's wife's maiden name. Vivian's mind raced. What did Grant say to her? He didn't get through, but he tried multiple times. We're investigating the connection now. After hanging up, Vivian immediately called Richard. Tell me everything about Rodriguez, she demanded. Jesus. Vivian, hello to you too. Richard, focus. How long has Rodriguez been on my board? 4 years, maybe 5. Why? Grant tried to contact someone named Lydia Chen from jail. Rodriguez's wife was Lydia Chen before marriage. The line went very quiet. You think Rodriguez was Grant's inside man? Richard said finally. I think it's worth investigating. Can you pull Rodriguez's financial records? Voting patterns, anything that might show a connection to Grant. On it, Vivian. If you're right, this goes deeper than we thought. Vivian pulled over to the side of the highway, hands shaking too badly to drive safely. How deep? Deep enough that Grant might have had help all along. Deep enough that taking him down might not have ended the threat. But Rodriguez voted to keep me as CEO. He voted against Grant. After Grant's fraud was already exposed. Before that, how did he vote? Vivian thought back. Against me. Almost always against me. But after Margaret's revelation, he switched sides. Classic rat leaving a sinking ship. Richard's keyboard clicked in the background. I'm pulling records now. Give me an hour. Vivian sat on the side of the highway watching trucks roar past and felt the victory she'd been celebrating crack slightly. What if it wasn't over? What if Grant had been just the visible piece of something larger? Her phone buzzed. Text from Caleb. You okay? You left the city an hour ago, should be closer by now. Vivian texted back. Traffic, be there soon. Don't let Emily start without me. She couldn't tell him about Rodriguez. Not yet. Not when she didn't know if it meant anything. But she also couldn't shake the feeling that they'd been celebrating too early. By the time Vivian reached the coast, the school play was starting in 30 minutes. She went straight to the elementary school, still wearing her business suit, carrying yellow roses, and feeling completely out of place among the parents in jeans and sweatshirts. Caleb found her in the parking lot. You made it, he said, pulling her into a hug. I was getting worried. Traffic. I'm sorry. Vivian handed him his flowers, white carnations, because the florist said they meant admiration, and she wanted him to know she admired everything about him. Caleb stared at the flowers like they were made of gold. You really brought me flowers. I really did. He kissed her gentle and sweet right there in the school parking lot with parents streaming past. Come on, he said. Emily's been asking for you every 5 minutes. If we don't get in there, she's going to send Mr. Carrots to find us. The school auditorium was packed with proud parents holding phones ready to record. Vivian and Caleb found seats in the 3rd row, Emily spotted them immediately and waved frantically from backstage, nearly hitting another tree with her branch arms. The play was exactly as chaotic as expected. Half the kids forgot their lines. One kindergartner cried through his entire monologue about recycling. And Emily was magnificent. Her tree had exactly 4 lines, which she delivered with the gravitas of someone accepting an Oscar. I am a tree. I make oxygen. Please don't cut me down. The squirrels need homes. The audience applauded wildly. Caleb was filming with one hand and gripping Vivian's hand with the other, his eyes suspiciously bright. After the play, Emily ran to them, still wearing her tree costume. Did you see me? Did you see I didn't forget any words? You were perfect, Vivian said, handing over the yellow roses. Best tree I've ever seen. Really better than real trees. Way better. Real trees don't have speaking lines. Emily hugged the flowers, then hugged Vivian, then announced loudly, Mr. Carrot says you're officially part of our family now because you brought the good flowers. Several nearby parents looked over with interest. Caleb looked mortified. Emily. What? It's true. Mr. Carrots is very wise about these things. Vivian knelt down to Emily's level. I would be honored to be part of your family. Good, because Daddy's happier when you're around. He smiles more, and he doesn't have bad dreams as much. Caleb looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him. Emily, that's private. It's okay, Vivian said, standing up. I'm happier when I'm around too. They went to dinner at Emily's favorite restaurant, a diner with crayons on every table, and a jukebox that only played songs from the 1960s. Emily colored elaborate pictures of trees with faces while explaining her post-play career options. I could be an actress, she mused, or a scientist who studies trees, or both. Is that allowed? Absolutely allowed, Vivian said. You can be anything you want. What are you talking? I run a company. We help other businesses grow. Emily considered this. So you're like a gardener, but for companies instead of plants. That's exactly what I am. Cool. Can I work for you when I'm big? Vivian felt her throat tighten. I would love that. After dinner, they dropped Emily at Mrs. Chen's for a sleepover. Emily had insisted because grown-ups need alone time and Mr. Carrots agrees, and Caleb drove Vivian back to her beach house. Come in, Vivian said. I need to talk to you about something. Inside, Vivian poured wine and told Caleb everything the detectives call Rodriguez Lydia Chen Richards investigation. Caleb listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker. So Grant might have had a partner, he said finally. Maybe. We don't know yet. But if he did, if Rodriguez was feeding him information, helping him manipulate the board, then taking down Grant wasn't enough. Vivian took a long drink of wine. We might have only cut off one head of the Hydra. They sat in silence, the weight of possible threats settling over them. Then Caleb said, You know what the worst part is? What? I was starting to believe we were safe, starting to imagine a future where we didn't have to look over our shoulders. He rubbed his face. And now I don't know if that future exists. It exists, Vivian said firmly. Even if Rodriguez was involved, we'll expose him too. We'll keep fighting until there's nothing left to fight. And if it never ends, if there's always another threat, then we deal with them as they come, together. She took his hand. I'm not giving up what we have because someone might try to take it away. Grant already taught me that lesson. Caleb squeezed her hand. I love you. I love you too. Emily wants me to ask if you'll move in with us. Vivian's heart stopped. She what? She's been asking for 2 weeks. Says her room's too small, but your house is too big, and maybe we should all live together in a medium house. Caleb smiled slightly. She's very practical about these things. What do you want? I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want Emily to have you in her life every day, not just weekends. I want us to be a family. He paused. But I also know that's huge and fast and maybe too much pressure. Yes. So if you need time to think about it, I completely underweight. Did you say yes? Yes, I want to live with you, both of you. Vivian felt tears threatening. I want the medium house and the daily breakfast, chaos, and Emily's running commentary on everything. I want all of it. Caleb kissed her like he was drowning and she was air. When they broke apart, he said, We should probably tell Emily before she hears it from Mr. Carrots. Vivian laughed through her tears. That rabbit knows everything before we do. They spent the night planning how to combine households, where to live, how to tell Emily officially. Caleb wanted to sell his cottage and buy something bigger. Vivian wanted to keep her beach house as an office, but agreed they needed more space for the three of them. 4, Caleb corrected. Mr. Carrots requires his own accommodations. Of course, how could I forget? Around midnight, Richard called. Found something, he said without preamble. Rodriguez has been receiving payments from a consulting firm Grant owned. Small amounts spread over 3 years hidden in legitimate business expenses. Vivian put him on speaker so Caleb could hear. How much total? 200,000, maybe more. I'm still tracing. Richard paused. Vivian, this is enough to bring charges. Rodriguez was being paid to vote against you. Does he know you're investigating? Not yet, but he will soon. These things leak. Then we need to move fast. Call an emergency board meeting tomorrow. I want Rodriguez confronted before he has time to run. After hanging up, Vivian looked at Caleb. Here we go again? At least this time we know what we're fighting. Do we? What if Rodriguez has partners too? What if this goes all the way through the board? Then we clean house, all of it. Caleb pulled her close. You're not alone this time. Whatever happens, we face it together. The next morning, Vivian called the emergency board meeting for 2 p.m. Every member confirmed attendance, including Rodriguez, who sounded completely unsuspecting. Vivian spent the morning preparing with Richard and a forensic accountant who'd found even more damning evidence Rodriguez hadn't just taken money from Grant. He'd actively shared confidential company information, leaked merger plans, and sabotaged deals that would have benefited Hartwell. He wasn't just a paid vote, the accountant explained. He was a spy. By the time Vivian joined the video conference at 2 p.m., she was ready for war. Thank you all for joining on short notice, she began. I've called this meeting to address a serious breach of fiduciary duty. She shared her screen showing the financial records. For the past 3 years, board member Rodriguez has been receiving payments from a shell company owned by Grant Maddox. In exchange, he voted against company interests, shared confidential information, and actively worked to undermine Hartwell Meridian's success. The silence was absolute. Rodriguez's face on screen went pale, then red. That's a lie. You're manufacturing evidence to what distract from my own crimes. Vivian's voice was ice. I have bank records, Rodriguez, wire transfers, emails between you and Grant discussing specific votes. You want to claim this is manufactured, hire a forensic accountant and prove it. Rodriguez's camera suddenly disconnected. He's running, Richard said. Let him run. We have everything we need. Vivian turned to the remaining board members. I'm calling a vote. All in favor of removing Rodriguez from the board effective immediately and pursuing legal action for corporate espionage. 5 hands rose, unanimous. Motion carries. Richard filed the paperwork. I want him arrested before close of business. Vivian took a breath. And I'm implementing a full audit of every board member's finances for the past 5 years. Anyone who objects can resign now. No one objected. The meeting ended and Vivian sat in her home office feeling exhausted and vindicated and still somehow unsatisfied. She'd won again, exposed another traitor, protected her company. But would it ever actually end? Her phone rang, unknown number. Vivian almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Ms. Hartwell, this is Lydia Chen, Rodriguez's wife. The woman's voice was shaking. I need to talk to you about my husband and Grant Maddox and things I should have said a long time ago. Vivian grabbed her recorder and hit record. I'm listening. My husband, he's not a bad man, but he made bad choices. Grant approached him 3 years ago with a deal vote against you share information and receive payments that would cover our daughter's medical bills. She has leukemia. The treatments are experimental and expensive, and our insurance won't cover. Vivian's anger deflated slightly. I'm sorry about your daughter. Don't be sorry, be angry, because here's the thing, Grant didn't tell my husband there were other options. Foundations, Grant's fundraisers. But Grant convinced him the only way to save our daughter was to betray you. Lydia's voice broke. And my husband believed him because when your child is dying, you'll believe anyone who promises a solution. Mrs. Chen, I'm not asking for mercy. My husband broke the law. He deserves consequences. But I wanted you to know why. And I wanted you to know that Grant Maddox is poison. He finds desperate people and exploits them. Your husband wasn't his first victim, and Rodriguez wasn't his last. Who else? Vivian demanded. Who else was Grant working with? I don't know names, but I know there were others. My husband mentioned someone in the city, someone with connections to your old office building. Lydia paused. I think Grant's been planning this for years. You were just the latest target. After hanging up, Vivian called Richard and relayed everything. If there are more people, more planted spies, we need to find them, she said. Already on it. I'm hiring a private investigation firm. We're going to tear apart every relationship Grant ever had and see who else he corrupted. This is going to take forever. Probably, but Vivian, you're winning, slowly, painfully, expensively, but you're winning. That evening, Vivian drove to Caleb's cottage and collapsed on his couch. Rodriguez's wife called, she said. Their daughter has cancer. Grant exploited that. Caleb sat beside her. Of course he did. That's what Grant does. Finds the wound and presses until people break. How do you fight someone like that? You already are. Every day. Every person you expose, every lie you uncover, that's fighting. He pulled her close. And you don't have to do it alone anymore. Promise? Promise, promise. Emily and I aren't going anywhere. Vivian closed her eyes and let herself believe him. Later that night, after Caleb fell asleep, Vivian stood on the porch watching the ocean and thinking about everything that had happened. Grant was in prison. Rodriguez was facing charges. Her company was secure. But somewhere out there, other threats waited. Other people Grant had corrupted. Other wounds he'd weaponized. Fighting him would never truly be over, unless she changed the game entirely. An idea began forming, dangerous and ambitious, and maybe completely insane. But also maybe exactly what she needed to do. She'd spent months playing defense, reacting to Grant's attacks, protecting what she'd built. What if she went on offense instead? What if she didn't just expose Grant's corruption, but dismantled the entire system that let men like him thrive? Vivian pulled out her phone and started making notes. By the time Caleb found her an hour later, she had the skeleton of a plan that would either save everything or destroy her completely. What are you doing? He asked sleepily. Ending this, Vivian said. For real this time. Not just for us. For everyone Grant ever hurt. How so? I'm going to testify at his trial publicly. I'm going to tell everything, the abuse, the manipulation, the corporate espionage, and then I'm going to start a foundation for people like Rodriguez's daughter. Medical funding for families being exploited by people like Grant. Caleb was fully awake now. That's going to put a target on your back. The target's already there. At least this way I'm fighting back on my terms. Vivian turned to face him. I need to do this, Caleb, not just for me, for everyone. He studied her face for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, then we do it together. You testify, we'll be in the front row. You start a foundation, we'll help you run it. You put a target on your back, we'll stand next to you so you're not alone. That's dangerous for Emily. Emily needs to see that fighting for what's right matters more than staying safe. Caleb took Vivian's hands. We're with you. Whatever comes next, we're with you. Vivian felt something settle in her chest. Not peace exactly, but purpose. She'd spent so long surviving. Maybe it was time to start living and fighting and building something that couldn't be stolen or destroyed or corrupted. Something built on truth instead of lies. Love instead of fear. And the absolute certainty that she deserved a life where she didn't have to choose between happiness and safety. She could have both. They all could. They just had to be brave enough to fight for it. The day Vivian was scheduled to testify, Emily woke up screaming. Caleb got to her room first, but Vivian was right behind him. The little girl was sitting up in bed, tears streaming down her face, clutching Mr. Carrot so tightly the stuffed rabbit's ears were bent. Baby, what's wrong? Caleb gathered her into his arms. I had a bad dream. The bad man came back. He took you and Vivian away, and I was all alone. Emily sobbed into her father's shoulder. It felt so real. Vivian sat on the edge of the bed, her heart breaking. It was just a dream, sweetheart. We're right here. We're not going anywhere. But you're going to talk about the bad man today. What if he gets mad? What if he hurts you? Caleb looked at Vivian over Emily's head, his expression torn. They talked about this, debated whether Vivian testifying was worth the risk, worth dragging everything back into the light, worth potentially traumatizing Emily all over again. Emily, Vivian said gently, do you remember what you told me about fighting dragons? The little girl hiccuped. That you have to be brave even when you're scared. That's right. Today I'm going to be brave. I'm going to tell the truth about the bad man so he can never hurt anyone else. And your daddy's going to be right there with me. We're going to do it together. What about me? You're going to stay with Mrs. Chen and be brave too. Being brave doesn't always mean fighting. Sometimes it means trusting the people you love to come back to you. Emily wiped her eyes with Mr. Carrot's ear. Mr. Carrot says okay, but you have to promise to come back. We promise, Vivian and Caleb said together. 3 hours later, Vivian stood outside the courthouse, reporters already gathering like vultures. Richard appeared at her elbow. You ready for this? He asked. No, but I'm doing it anyway. That's my girl. Remember, stick to the facts. Don't let Grant's lawyer bait you, and if you need a break, just say so. Caleb took Vivian's hand. I'll be in the gallery the whole time. You look at me if you get scared. I'm terrified. Good. Means you're human. He kissed her forehead. Go show them who Vivian Hartwell really is. Inside the courtroom was packed. Vivian spotted Grant's lawyer, a silver-haired man who looked like he ate nails for breakfast, and felt her stomach clench. Then she saw Grant himself seated at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, and something in her settled. He looked small, diminished. The man who'd once controlled her life was now controlled by guards and chains and consequences. He couldn't hurt her anymore. The bailiff called her name. Vivian walked to the witness stand, was sworn in, and sat down with her hands folded to hide their shaking. The prosecutor started gently. Ms. Hartwell, can you tell the court about your relationship with the defendant? We were married for 7 years, divorced 6 months ago. And during your marriage, did Mr. Maddox ever exhibit concerning behavior? Vivian took a breath. Yes, he was emotionally abusive, controlling. He isolated me from friends and family, monitored my phone calls, and routinely belittled my business achievements. Did this abuse ever become physical? The courtroom went silent. Vivian met Grant's eyes across the room, saw the warning there, the threat. She didn't care. Yes, 3 times. Once he grabbed my throat during an argument about finances. Once he shoved me into a wall when I questioned his consulting work. And once 2 weeks before I filed for divorce, he hit me hard enough to leave bruises. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Grant's lawyer was already on his feet objecting, but the judge overruled him. Continue, Ms. Hartwell, the prosecutor said gently. For the next hour, Vivian laid out everything. The manipulation, the stolen credit from Caleb and others, the corporate espionage, the bribes, the threats. When she finished, the prosecutor said, one final question. Why are you testifying today? You could have stayed silent, avoided this publicity. Vivian looked at Caleb in the gallery. He nodded encouragingly. Because Grant Maddox destroyed my life for 7 years. He destroyed Caleb Walker's life and career. He exploited Rodriguez's dying daughter. And if I stay silent, he'll do it again to someone else. Her voice strengthened. I'm testifying because the only way men like Grant lose power is when their victims refuse to be silent anymore. The prosecutor sat down. Grant's lawyer stood up. Ms. Hartwell, isn't it true that you're testifying because you're bitter about the divorce? No. Isn't it true that you fabricated these abuse allegations to gain sympathy? No. You claim my client hit you. Do you have medical records? Photos, any proof whatsoever? Vivian felt her confidence waver. She didn't have proof. She'd been too ashamed to go to a doctor, too scared to document anything. I don't have physical proof, no. Grant's lawyer smiled. So we're supposed to take your word that I have proof. Every head in the courtroom turned. Caleb was standing in the gallery holding up his phone. The judge frowned. Sir, you can't interrupt. Your Honor, I have photographs. From the night Vivian came to my cottage with bruises on her arms and neck. I took them because I was afraid she'd go back to him and need evidence later. Vivian's heart stopped. She'd forgotten about those photos, had blocked out the memory of Caleb gently documenting her injuries while she cried. The prosecutor was already moving. Your Honor, we'd like to submit these photographs as evidence. Grant's lawyer was objecting loudly, but it was too late. The photos were displayed on the courtroom screen. Vivian's bruised throat, her swollen wrists, the fingerprints on her upper arms. The jury looked horrified. Grant looked cornered, and Vivian felt something break open in her chest, not pain but release. The secret she'd carried for so long was finally visible, finally real to people who mattered. The rest of the cross-examination was brutal, but Vivian held firm. She didn't cry, didn't apologize, just kept telling the truth until Grant's lawyer finally gave up. When she stepped down from the witness stand, Caleb was waiting in the hallway. "You kept those photos," Vivian said. "I kept them because I knew someday you'd be brave enough to use them." He pulled her into his arms. "You were amazing in there. I was terrified." Being brave and being terrified aren't mutually exclusive. He kissed her. "Come on, let's go get Emily and go home." But when they reached the courthouse exit, reporters swarmed. "Ms. Hartwell, how does it feel to testify against your ex-husband? Do you think he'll be convicted? What message do you have for other abuse survivors?" Vivian froze. This was the moment she could run, hide, refuse to engage. Or she could finish what she started. She stepped toward the cameras. "I have a statement," she said clearly. "Grant Maddox spent 7 years making me believe I was worthless, that my success was luck, that I needed him to survive. He's a predator who targets vulnerable people and exploits them. But here's what I want other survivors to know: you are not worthless. Your abuser does not define you. And speaking your truth, even when it's terrifying, is the most powerful thing you can do." Vivian paused, gathering her courage for the final announcement. "That's why I'm establishing the Sarah Walker Foundation in honor of Caleb Walker's late wife. It will provide medical funding for families facing catastrophic illness, families who might otherwise be exploited by people like Grant Maddox, because nobody should have to choose between saving their child and compromising their integrity." The reporters erupted with questions, but Vivian was done. She took Caleb's hand and walked away, leaving them shouting behind her. In the car, Caleb was quiet. "You okay?" Vivian asked. "You named the foundation after Sarah. Is that okay? I should have asked first." "It's more than okay." His voice cracked. "She would have loved that. Loved that something good came from what Grant did to us. She'd be proud of you for not giving up, for raising an incredible daughter, for being brave enough to love again." Caleb pulled over into a parking lot and kissed her like his life depended on it. When they finally broke apart, he said, "Marry me." Vivian's brain short-circuited. "What? Marry me. Not now, not tomorrow, but someday. When we found the medium house and Emily's ready and the foundation's running smoothly. Marry me, Vivian. Build a life with me that can't be stolen or destroyed or corrupted." That's the least romantic proposal I've ever heard. "I know, I'm terrible at this, but I love you and I want forever. And Emily already refers to you as her bonus mom, so yes." I figured we might as well make it off a wait. Did you say yes?" "Yes, I'll marry you someday, when the timing's right and Emily's ready and we've built something worth protecting." Vivian kissed him again. Yes to all of it. They sat in the parking lot kissing like teenagers until Caleb's phone rang. "Mrs. Chen, you two done being dramatic," the elderly woman demanded. "Emily wants to know if the dragon's dead for real this time, and frankly, so do I." "Tell her we're on our way," Caleb said. "And yes, the dragon's really dead." When they picked up Emily, she took one look at their faces and announced, "You're getting married." Vivian and Caleb exchanged startled glances. "How did you?" Caleb started. "Mr. Carrots knows things. Also, you're both smiling weird, and Daddy only smiles like that when something really good happened." Emily threw her arms around both of them. "Can I be a flower girl? I've always wanted to be a flower girl. Mr. Carrots has opinions about flower colors." "We're not getting married right away," Vivian said, laughing. "But yes, when we do, you can absolutely be the flower girl. And Mr. Carrots can be the ring bearer. Mr. Carrots can have whatever job he wants." That night, after Emily was asleep, Vivian and Caleb sat on the porch of his cottage and talked about the future, real plans, not just dreams. Where to live, how to merge their lives, when to tell the press about their engagement. "We could keep it quiet," Caleb suggested. "Just us and Emily and the people who matter. Or we could announce it publicly. Show Grant that he didn't break us, he brought us together." "I like that version better." Vivian's phone rang. "Richard, you're trending on Twitter," he said. "In a good way. Your testimony's everywhere. People are calling you brave, courageous, a hero." "I'm not a hero, I'm just tired of being silent." "Well, your non-hero testimony might have just won us the case. Grant's lawyer is already talking plea deals. He knows they're cooked. What kind of deal? 20 years minimum, no parole, permanent ban from corporate consulting, and he has to pay a restitution to everyone he defrauded, including Caleb. Vivian felt tears prick her eyes. It's really over. It's really over. You won, Viv, completely, totally, absolutely won. After hanging up, Vivian relayed everything to Caleb. 20 years, he repeated. Emily will be 27 when he gets out. If he gets out, he's not young. 20 years might be a life sentence. They sat with that knowledge, feeling it settle. Do you feel different? Caleb asked. Now that it's done? Not yet. Maybe tomorrow, or next week, or next year. Vivian leaned against him. But I feel lighter, like I can finally breathe all the way. Yeah, me too. 2 weeks later, Grant's plea deal was finalized. 22 years, no parole, full restitution. The judge called his crimes a systematic pattern of abuse and exploitation, and said the sentence reflected society's refusal to tolerate such behavior. Vivian watched from the gallery as Grant was led away. He didn't look at her, didn't say anything, just shuffled out in his orange jumpsuit, smaller and more pathetic than she'd ever imagined possible. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked how she felt. Relieved, Vivian said honestly, and ready to move forward. What's next for you in Hartwell Meridian? Next, I focus on building instead of defending, growing instead of surviving, and launching the Sarah Walker Foundation to help families who need it. In your personal life, there are rumors about you and Caleb Walker. Vivian smiled. No comment. Some things get to stay private. But 3 months later, when she and Caleb found the perfect house big enough for all of them, close enough to the ocean, that Emily could hear the waves, Vivian posted a photo on social media. Just the three of them on the porch, Emily holding Mr. Carrots, Caleb's arm around Vivian's waist. The caption read, "Building something that lasts." The engagement announcement came a month after that, and the press went wild. But Vivian didn't care about the headlines anymore. She cared about the life they were creating, messy and imperfect and absolutely real. The Sarah Walker Foundation launched 6 months after Grant's sentencing. The first family they helped was Rodriguez's daughter, whose leukemia treatment they fully funded. Lydia Chen cried when Vivian called to tell her, "Why would you help us after what my husband did?" she asked. "Because your daughter deserves to live. And because breaking the cycle of exploitation starts with refusing to punish innocent people for their parents' mistakes." By the end of the first year, the foundation had helped 37 families. By the end of the second year, over 100. Companies started donating. Other survivors started sharing their stories. The foundation became bigger than Vivian had ever imagined, a movement, not just a charity. Hartwell Meridian thrived under Vivian's leadership. She hired new board members who actually cared about integrity, implemented policies to prevent future corruption, and slowly, carefully rebuilt her reputation from that CEO who married the wrong guy to that CEO who fought back and won. Emily grew, started 4th grade, joined the drama club, still consulted Mr. Carrots on all major decisions, and called Vivian Mom for the first time on a random Tuesday while asking for help with homework. Vivian had cried for 20 minutes. Caleb's workshop thrived too. He started taking on bigger projects, custom furniture for high-end clients, architectural consultations for earthquake-resistant buildings. His reputation as a brilliant engineer who'd been screwed over made people want to work with him more, not less. And every night they came home to each other, to family dinners and homework help and Emily's elaborate stories about school, to the kind of ordinary, beautiful chaos that Vivian had once thought was impossible for someone like her. The wedding happened 2 years after Grant's sentencing on the beach behind their house. Small and intimate, just 50 people who actually mattered. Emily wore a yellow dress and carried flowers. Mr. Carrots was indeed the ring bearer, secured to a tiny pillow by Emily's insistence. Mrs. Chen officiated because she had an online ordination certificate, and someone has to keep you two from being ridiculous. When it came time for vows, Caleb went first. "Vivian, you taught me that broken things can be beautiful, that surviving isn't the same as living, that love isn't about being perfect, it's about being honest." His voice shook. "You gave me my life back, my truth back, my future back. I promise to spend the rest of my life making sure you never doubt how extraordinary you are." Vivian was already crying when she started her vows. "Caleb, you saw me at my lowest and didn't try to fix me. You just stood beside me while I fixed myself. You taught me that strength isn't about never breaking, it's about breaking and rebuilding something stronger. She looked at Emily, who was grinning widely. You both taught me that family isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, being honest, loving fiercely. I promise to show up for you both every single day for the rest of my life. Mrs. Chen pronounced them married, and Emily cheered so loudly, Mr. Carrots nearly fell off his pillow. At the reception, Richard gave a toast. I've known Vivian for 15 years. Watched her build an empire, survive a nightmare, and come out stronger than steel. But I've never seen her happier than she is right now. To Vivian and Caleb, may you keep building things that last. Later, when the guests had gone and Emily was asleep on Mrs. Chen's couch, Vivian and Caleb walked down to the water. We did it, Vivian said. We actually made it here. Here, being married on a beach after defeating your evil ex-husband and building a medical foundation. Exactly that specific here. Caleb laughed and pulled her close. Think we'll ever have a boring life? God, I hope not. Boring sounds terrible. Good, because Emily's already planning our next adventure. Something about adopting a dog named Captain Biscuits. Captain Biscuits. Mr. Carrots needs a friend, apparently. They stood on the sand, the same beach where Vivian had once stood, ready to give up, and looked at the future they'd built from ashes and honesty and the absolute refusal to let anyone else define their worth. Grant was in prison. Rodriguez was serving his sentence. The foundation was helping hundreds of families. Hartwell Meridian was stronger than ever. And Vivian had a family that loved her, not despite her brokenness, but because she'd had the courage to put herself back together in front of them. You know what the best part is, Vivian said. What? We didn't just survive, we thrived. We built something Grant could never touch or steal or destroy. What did we build? A life where broken things become beautiful, where truth matters more than image, where love is stronger than fear. Vivian turned to face her husband a word that once meant terror and now meant safety. We built a life worth fighting for. Caleb kissed her as the sun set over the ocean, painting the sky gold and pink and promising. And somewhere in the house behind them, Emily slept peacefully. Mr. Carrots tucked under her chin, dreaming of flower girls and ring-bearing rabbits and parents who loved each other enough to fight dragons. The strongest people aren't the ones who never break. They're the ones who survive the storm, protect what matters, and slowly rebuild with honesty, patience, and love. They're the ones who look at their scars and see proof they survived, who take broken pieces and build something stronger than what existed before, who understand that healing isn't about becoming who you were, it's about becoming who you were always meant to be. Vivian Hartwell had been broken by a man who thought power came from destruction. She'd been rebuilt by a man who understood that real strength comes from creation. And together with a 7-year-old and a wise stuffed rabbit, they'd built a life that proved the most important truth of all: love doesn't make you weak. Love makes you brave enough to fight for something worth keeping.